You wrote an article. We haven't been able to talk to you for a while, but you wrote an article about moving to the ECHL, kind of the pros and cons. There seem to be a lot of pros. Of course, we don't have to front the money for it.
Exactly.
You and I don't, anyway. But talk about, in researching that article and in talking to people about why the ECHL would be a good thing and why the ECHL might have some drawbacks too.
Well, it would be a good thing because you wouldn't be, at least for next year or the year after, you wouldn't be worrying about, is Bloomington going to come back? Is Dayton going to be able to survive? Is Quad City going to make it through the week? You've got all those factors. And if you take out those three unstable teams right now, then the Comets got to travel to Tulsa, to Wichita, to Missouri, to Rapid City more, and then your travel budget just explodes. Whereas if you go to the ECHL, Chicago's coming back, Kalamazoo's coming back, Toledo's coming back, Cincinnati's coming back. Even though their attendance numbers are inflated, they're going to come back. Those are hockey cities. Those are hockey. They are cities where the owners also own the building along with the team, so there's more incentive for them to come back, which is, everybody poo-poos that. It's huge. There's no way Kalamazoo could last for 45 years except they own the building, with their attendance numbers. It's the only way. But that's what you're dealing with. There's a little bit more stability there.
If you're the Comets, then what is the drawback? Outside of the franchise fee, which is $1 million plus, what is that? What are the caveats?
Well, you're never going to have a Midwest bus league then, because to have that happen, you'd have to keep the teams that you've got now in the CHL with the IHL affiliation, and then you'd have to take some of those ECHL teams to come over. If you go to the ECHL, that's never going to happen. You're always going to be busing to Elmira, to Florida, to South Carolina, to Georgia. You're always going to be busing. It's a pipe dream. It's just never going to happen, no matter how good the economy gets, because to do it, you'd have to leave the ECHL and buy your way out again and then start up a new league, and it just isn't worth the headaches. So that's the biggest drawback.
What do you see the Comets doing? Because the Frankies...
Oh, I think they're going.
Really? Because
I really do.
I would say they've been very loyal to
Sure they have.
The teams that you mentioned that are not necessarily as stable, that are in the region. I mean, they've been loyal, helping them stay afloat in a sense over the last few years, but you see them as possibly
I think it's time
going.
Because it's been how many years now for those markets, and they haven't gotten any stronger. We're still debating, is Quad City going to, what's their situation? They're going to have their fourth owner in 5 years now, and is that guy going to really put the money into it again? I wouldn't think so. They only had Saturday night, Saturday night, I think they had their first crowd since opening night, over 4,000 fans. Come on, the writing's there. Dayton, no matter what you do, it's going to have that building, which those owners in the building promised to fix up, and they haven't done one thing about it.
Well, they've had a very odd ownership situation, I think.
No, the owners are great. The Gems owners are great people. It's the owners of the building that are the ones that are messing it up, because they have not done one thing to renovate that building.
Is it a problem, though, that the Comets don't own the building?
Sure. I mean, you could make a lot more money. The Kalamazoo folks always told me that Kalamazoo having a 4,000 fan game was the equivalent to Comets having a 10,000 fan game. That was about what the finances were, because of the ownership in building. And that was from the Kalamazoo side. It wasn't from the Comets side. The Comets don't talk about that. But, I mean, if you think about it, you look at the average ticket prices and what the Comets get out of each ticket price, and the suites, which they don't get the money from, and the parking and all that, which if you own the building, you get all of that, it can work that way.
And the Comets have to split it, and
yeah, they don't have to split anything. They don't get
the parking.
Right, they don't get anything from parking. They don't get anything from concessions. They don't get anything from the suites. They have to pay for the use of the scoreboard. They got to pay for the use of the ribbon board. They got to pay for other different things, which is part of doing business. But if you own the building, you don't have to do any of that. You can just take all that money.
Interesting. I didn't realize that played such a big factor.
I always used to wonder about it too, but then, when you study it, look at Cincinnati. They are averaging publicly 4,000 fans a game, which means they're probably 3,000 to 3,500. Well, they control the building. There's no way they could afford to play in the Gardens in that building if they didn't own the building. I mean, you couldn't afford the rent. It's basically, if you own the team and you wanted to play your team there if you didn't own the building.
Would the Comets ever consider building their own facility?
Oh, it'd be ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
It would be ridiculous.
But obviously other teams have done it.
They don't have the money for that.
Yeah.
I mean, no, that's not going to happen.
But you do see them leaving.
I see them. Yeah, I do. I mean,
definitely exploring it.
Well, I think the decision's been made. I said last week because you have to have the decision made by now for the ECHL because they do their schedule so they come out in May. And if you were going to stay in the CHL, why wouldn't you say so by now? You would. I mean, I think they are also showing some respect to the CHL by not announcing it, and they're going to wait until their 2-year agreement with the CHL ends at the end of the season, which is just what Colorado did last year, and then it'll be announced then. But I definitely think they're going. I think it makes the most business sense. I think it makes the most common sense for the fans. There are too many positives for it versus the potential negatives to stay. And it has nothing to do with the CHL because I think the CHL has treated the Comets fantastically well. They have treated them with a lot of respect, and they didn't need to take these teams on.
Yeah. If anything, it gives us a lot to talk about until May when we know for sure what's going to happen. But a big week in Comet hockey this coming week. Blake and I will be here next Monday to talk about it on another edition of Inside the Zone. But for now, thanks for joining us and enjoy the week.